So, welcome to our EM service. We're glad you're here. We are here today for our series on how Jesus proves his authority, not just in Bible, but in our lives. And so today we're going over the idea of Jesus is greater than our needs, okay? All right, so confession time. Who here, when you watch like a really sad movie, you like cry? Real hard. Jalen, I knew you'd nod. You're right. I knew you'd be a crier, okay? Or like, you know when you see those like compassion commercials? No one watches commercials. But you know what I mean? Like there's like that really sick child halfway across the world and your $1 donation is going to give them water for the rest of the year. You know what I'm talking about? Who cries? I cry a little bit. Okay, who, like you admit, gentlemen, there are some of you among here who I know cry. Yes, my son is a sweet crier. I love it. Okay. Jackson, are you a crier? Oh, you are? Okay, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Who's a hard as a rock and like has no emotions and is just evil? Right, Sam, that's what I thought. Sam was going to raise his hand. Okay. So those of you, unlike Sam, who owes me $1 for every minute he's late to church. I'm just kidding. I saw a meme, low-key, I saw a meme that had this girl on the subway with like $10 bills on her. And it was like, if I had $1 for every day that I'm late to church, that's how she would wear her money. I'm like, that's Sam right there. I'm just kidding. Okay, but the point being, what was my point? The point being, those of you who are criers, that's called compassion. And today is about compassion. So what is the meaning of compassion? What does compassion mean? Does anyone know? Guess what? There's a definition that I created. I didn't create. It's not on there. Is it on there? Here we go. Oh, I'm gonna make you all guess. It's because Nick's the one on the back and he's my guesser and he already has the answers. So this is compassion. Is that spelled correctly? Correct. Sympathetic consciousness. Those are big words, right? Y'all? Understand? Sympathetic consciousness of another's distress. Pause. So like, Ye-Jane is riding a bike and she falls. She doesn't wear a helmet, not very smart, okay? And she scrapes her whole face. And you're like, what would you do? Would you laugh? Or would you be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like that looks so painful. But together with the desire to alleviate it. So we're not just like, wow, that sucks so much, but we actually go and we help her. There's like these YouTube videos about this guy in New York who like is in Times Square pretending like he's like dying. He's like writhing on the floor and he's like in pain. And the video shows like, you'd be surprised how many people they'll watch like a bad car accident, you know? And they're like, oh, that sucks. And they'll just keep walking, you know? Very few people actually go to help until one person goes to help and then everybody goes to help. And it goes to show that we are a society who lacks a lot of compassion. We can feel bad for someone, but going there to alleviate it, that's what compassion is about. And that is our main idea for today. Because Jesus is a compassionate God. He is compassionate. He's not just like, oh man, sucks to be Daniel, you know? Like his car got wrecked right after he bought it. He doesn't have a car for like weeks. That sucks. Have fun. You know, like that's not what it's like. Like he has compassion on us. Not just like the big things, but the small things. And that, my friend, is what helps us to realize that Jesus is real. Because he's not just this like picture. How many of you guys, when you think of Jesus, what do you picture? What do you picture? Like, you know, going to Sunday school, growing up in church, you know, every old school white church building that every Korean church borrows from, you know, there's that like one random white painting of Jesus. You know what I'm talking about? There's the one with the door, and it's supposed to be Revelations. Like seek and knock, and there's no door. Like he's pure white. Okay, totally inaccurate historically. Like, what do you picture when you see Jesus? Is he someone who doesn't look like anything you like? What does he look like to you? Jesus is real. He's real and he's compassionate towards you and I. And that is what moves people to respond to him. And so today we're going to look at that idea of him being compassionate for you. When you look at your life, do you feel like you need compassion? Do you feel like your life is in a place where you're like, man, Sam, your life, man, that sucks. Like, I need a lot of compassion on this guy, you know? Like, do you think that about yourself? The more we realize our needs, the more we realize we need compassion. The more need you realize you have, the better position you are in to receive from Jesus. So here we see in Mark a really important story that illustrates how he shows us compassion for our needs. So here's the first thing, is that Jesus has compassion on us. That is the most important point today. He has compassion on you. He feels your pain, and he's here to alleviate it with you. Now, here's the story. It might sound familiar, especially if you recently did VBS. The story might sound kind of familiar, but a little bit different. So read on. Okay, Mark 8. Here he is. About this time, another large crowd, a different large crowd, gathered together, and they ran out of food. Okay, pause, y'all. In the Bible, they only record men, which, whatever. But the point being, if there were women in this crowd, this wouldn't have happened, But however, there are 4,000 men, so they ran out of food, So here's the thing. He calls his disciples together and told them, I feel sorry for these people. They have been here with me for 3 days, and they have nothing left to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will faint along the way. For some of them have come a long distance. Now, this is not Jesus feeding the 5,000 that most of us know. That is the most famous story of Jesus feeding 5,000 people. 5 loaves of bread and how many? That's right, 1 prayer. We all got it. Okay, so that was the most famous story. There's another account of him feeding 4,000 people. Now, why is this story less famous? First of all, that initial story of the feeding the 5,000, he was feeding Jewish people, right? Like the ones who were chosen as God's people. Now, this group, they're not Jewish. It's a bunch of Gentiles. So non-Jewish people. The Jewish people believe that through them, God will bless the world, which is true. Because through them would come Jesus, the Messiah. Jesus is not, what kind of man is he? He's a Jewish man, right? Historically, culturally, fully God, fully man, but he is a Jewish man. And so he came to save his people. But he also came to save the whole world. And so through this, we see these are the Gentiles. This is the first miracle that we see, that this many Gentiles are fed. Now, it's similar to the Jewish people. But he's saying, look, it's not just my people. All people are welcome to my table. Because see, here's the thing. Jesus had already performed the 5,000 feeding already. His disciples have seen him multiply 5 loaves, 2 fish to feed 5,000 people with how many left over? 12 baskets. They've already witnessed this exact miracle. It's like deja vu. They should have been like, oh, this is similar. Bunch of hungry dudes and no food. Great. He's going to feed us all. They should have already made that connection. But they didn't. They didn't. They're like, see, I can feed my people 5,000, great. But these people, you're on your own, you guys figure it out because you aren't our people. In that time, Jews, Gentiles, they were the most divisive part of society. We live in a very divided world right now. In your mind right now, think about the 2 most polar opposite groups in our society, in our culture. You could probably quickly think of a few, Maybe it's political, blue, red. Maybe it's who knows? There's lots of divisive groups right now. Now think about a bunch of those people gathered together, or the one with less power. Think about the group with less power, right? So for example, in our world, minorities, right? People with less power. Think about a bunch of them gathered together and a bunch of white dudes. And Jesus is go feed them all. It's do you get what I'm saying? This is not just some Mark 8, verse 1. It's not one of those, this is a real story in real time in a real cultural context. Very similar to kind of our own in some ways. A very divided world. People who are I can't serve that guy because he is the total opposite of everything I believe in. That is the context for what he does today. And he says this, I'm feeling sorry for them. If I send them home, they're going to faint along the way. So here we see that Jesus wants to meet both spiritual and physical needs. They've spent 3 days out in the open. This is like Coachella, but Jesus and different kind of music. Okay, you know what I mean? This is what it is. He is here with these people 3 days, 3 nights. They're just together hearing his message and they just want That's how much they want to hear Jesus talk and share and teach, that they're going hungry. You know? And he says, I see both your spiritual and your physical need. The greatest need that group had was spiritual, the greatest need. They needed to be saved. They needed to be redeemed. They needed for their sin to no longer be a sin issue, but for someone to come and cover that sin for them. We all know that's salvation, right? That's what he came for. But it wasn't just that. Jesus wasn't like, here's my amazing message. Y'all peace out. If you die along the way, who freaking cares? That's not how he was. He was like, this is my message. I'm here to save you, but you're hungry. So let me feed you. That's the kind of God that we serve. That he sees both our spiritual and our physical needs. The spiritual need is the root issue, but the physical needs he also sees. Whether it's emotional, basic needs, relational needs, whatever it may be, he sees them, he knows them, he wants to meet them. I want you guys to imagine, hopefully it's never happened to any of you. I'm not sure. Maybe it has. Has anyone had a fire in their house before? No? You have, Nick? Okay. Did it burn down? Okay, good. All right. So imagine, I do know somebody who their house burned down. They lost everything. But imagine your house is burning down, okay? Like, how many of you are like worst case scenario folks? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I get this weird thought in my head. I'm like, okay, if the house is on fire, what am I going to do? I'm going to go this way first, this way next. You know what I mean? No one thinks that? All right. But you know who's ready for it? Me, okay? So y'all follow me out of the building. But the point being, like, sometimes I think, like, if that were to happen, what would I do, you know? Okay, so, like, there's a fire in your house, okay? What would you do? What do they tell you? You should not go and get stuff, right? Like, you should not. You shouldn't. There's this one movie, it's a really cheesy rom-com from, like, 2010. I think it's called Leap Year. It's the one where, like, this girl loves a guy, whatever, you know, same thing, same story. But the point is, there's, like, this saying that if you are in a fire, what you gather is what really matters to you. And so, you know, this girl pours the fire alarm, and the guy that she's not supposed to be with is, like, gathering all these, like, non-important things, and she's like, peace out, you're not the guy for me, you know? So, like, that's the story. But the point being, like, in a fire, what would you do? What's the most important thing to you? Okay? Correct, Ji-sung. Call 911. We're going to be okay, you guys, our family. But the point being, say you're in a fire, and you're, like, running out, and you broke your leg, okay? And you're, like, trying to get out, you break your leg, you're dying, the world's ending. And guess what you say? The paramedic's like, we got to get you to the hospital. And you're like, no, I need my iPad. Or, like, whatever you say, I don't know, like, something dumb, okay? Like, no, I really need, not dumb, not smart. I just need my gaming system. Or I don't know, what do you guys like so much in your lives, you know? Is that really what's important? You know what I'm talking about? Like, it is important, but is it as important as your life? I hope not. Y'all, I'm here to tell you, nothing is more important than your life, okay? But it's kind of like that. Sometimes we think that our basic physical needs are like the iPad, right? Like, your leg is broken. Your house is burning. You are on the brink of death and suffocation and smoke inhalation, and you're worried about this. Here's the thing. Jesus cares about both, but we have to get the first things first, right? Like, our spiritual need is your broken leg, smoke inhalation. You're very close to death. You can have an iPad in your arms when you die, but is that going to make it better? No. Do you know what I mean? Or your gaming system, or whatever it is that you care for a lot. Like, or like your shoes that you love, or like your most expensive piece of jewelry, or designer bag, or whatever. You all are not superficial at all. I'm just saying those examples. But the point being, like, you know what I mean? Like, we got to get first things first. And the first things first is that our spiritual need for Jesus, for salvation, is the greatest need you and I will ever have. If that isn't satisfied in God, in Jesus, nothing else will satisfy. You can have all your basic needs and more and beyond met. And if that need is not met, it's like you're holding an iPad and you're dying. You know what I'm talking about? That's the idea. But here's the beautiful thing, is that Jesus says, I'm here to save your leg and your life and to build you a new house and fill it in a way that you can live prosperously for his kingdom, for his goodness. That's what he's after. Do you hear me? Like, I think sometimes we get imbalanced in church. We're like, be saved, that's it. Who cares about everything else? Or it's like the prosperity, like, it's okay to sin however you want because Jesus loves you so much, and like, you should just pray for $5 million. Like, we have two very polar extremes in our world right now, and we have to have that balance of, yes, our greatest need is spiritual, and we must come before God to be saved. That he is the only way. And he also cares for your needs. He also cares for your heart, your relationships, the things that bother you all day. I'm a parent. I have 2 kids. And you know how you're getting old? You start to read about like parenting things. Like my dad used to sit down and read parenting books. That's not my generation. He's a boomer, okay? He actually is. He was born in that age range. However, like my generation of millennial parents, do you know how we get our information? Through social media. So like that's all the memes and all the like influencer moms, whatever they are. That's how I get my information. And so someone once told me, if you want your teenage son to talk to you and have a relationship with you when they're a teenager and they naturally don't want to talk to you, okay, you have to listen to what they say and talk about when they're 6. My child talks about all the time. You guys know, right? Most of you guys know what my child talks about, right? I love my precious child. You know why? Because he's like me. He wakes up talking, goes to sleep talking. He's the best right there. He talks about trucks 24/7. I'm pretty sure he dreams about trucks all the time. All the time. He loves them so much. And I realized, you know what? That has to be my world now. Like, I have to care about a ladder fire truck versus like a regular fire truck versus like, like all these different things. I have to care about it because I love him. And I want him to know that I care about what he cares about. So that when he gets older, he knows I still care about whatever thing's going to be cool in 10 years, right? Like, Jesus cares for you. He cares for you. Some things he's like, that's a weird thing you care about, but I still care about you. I know you, and I love, and you are seen. That's what we see when we see this passage of him saying, I don't want to just feed you spiritually. That's the most important need, but I also want to meet your physical need. The greatest gift he gives us is salvation, but he also wants to walk with us in our joys, our sorrows, our everyday. So let me ask you, what is your greatest need? What is your greatest need right now in life? Your greatest need right now. If you were to ask yourself, and you will, because I will ask you to ask yourself at the end of today, but like, what is your greatest need? If you didn't have to tell anybody, what would you say is your greatest need? Is your leg broken, but you're searching for your gaming system? You know what I mean? Like, what are your priorities? Which one's which? Because all of us have the need. But we have to know what it is, to know who to go to satisfy that need. Number 2, so he has compassion. But the second thing I want us to realize is that Jesus calls his followers to serve. He calls us to serve. And so here are his disciples, Mark 8, verse 4. Y'all, they should have been like deja vu. But you know what they do? They're like, I've never been in this situation before. It's the first time. What do you mean feed everybody? What are we supposed to do? Man, why are they so like slow? But Jesus said, notice how he's like not condescending? He's not like us. He's way better. He's like, okay, how much bread do we have? This time they have more. They got 7 loaves. Verse 6. So Jesus told them to sit down. He took 7 loaves, thanked God for them, and broke them into smaller pieces. Look at what he does. He could have done this himself. What does he do? He tells his disciples, you go, you give the bread to the crowd. A few small fish, he blessed these, and they distributed them. Now, he calls his followers to embody who he is. How many of you, there's someone in your life that you're like, I would love to be just like that person? Okay? Think about it. Who is it? I kind of want to hear. I'm curious. Some of you are like, I cannot share it out loud. But like, who do you like the person that you're like, I want to be just like them? Raise your hands if it's your mom. Nobody. Okay, y'all. Raise your hands if it's your dad. Nobody. Okay, raise your hands if it's someone's famous. Nobody? You guys have no one to model your lives after? Who is it? Sam tongue. Oh, I was like, wait a second. Just kidding. Okay. So like an uncle, someone that's like a dad figure, right? Who's someone that you think of, you're like, I want to be just like that person. Maybe not everything, but like most of the things I'm like, I want to be like that person. Who's that person? Y'all are nervous. I'm going to call on you. I'm not going to call on you. But like, you know what I mean? There's someone in your life that you're like, they're pretty cool. I want to be like that. Now, nowadays, we like follow each other, right? Like on social media, whatever else. But the thing is, why, even like social media, why do you follow who you follow? You know what I mean? It's because they're pretty. It's because they're rich. I don't know. Like, what is it? Why do we follow these people? What about them do we want to be like? The idea is that when we follow someone, we follow them because we want to be like them. You don't follow people that you don't like. You don't follow people that you don't want to be like them. We follow them because something about them we want to replicate. It's the same thing with Jesus. Jesus is not about fans. He's about followers, disciples, people who will live like him, embody him, be him. So here he is. Do you know what it's like to follow Jesus? It's not just give your life. That's you being born. When you're born, y'all know what you look like? You can see pictures of yourselves when you were born. You know, parents are like, oh my God, it's because they're bichoso. Because babies look ugly when they're born, okay? Even my own child, I'm like, wow, so glad she is now not that looking, you know? Like, you know what I'm talking about? But like, when it's your child, though, it's like a miracle of life. You're like, this child is the best part of us. And they're like bruised and purple and like look weird, okay? But that's what being born again is. When you give your life to Jesus, that's day one, okay? I hope you don't stay like that forever because that is a real funky looking Christian, okay? But like, as you grow to be more like him, more like him. And what does it look like to follow Jesus? Repeat it after me. Selfless serving. Ready to go. Selfless serving. That's what it looks like to follow Jesus. Humbly following, putting others before yourself. Now, I want you to think about right now. Someone in your life who drives you a little bit crazy. That you're like, I see some eyes going back and forth. Perhaps they're in this room next to you, okay? But the point being, someone that you're like, oh, I could do it so much better than that person. I am way better than that person. I will never admit it because I'm a humble, good Christian person. But man, that person, I'm judging them up and down. You know what I mean? Like we all do that. You know why? Because we're Korean and we're Christian and we're human, okay? But like, you know what I'm talking about? Now, I want you to imagine that person in your head, and I want you to tell yourself, put that person ahead of you. That person is way better than me. Some of you are like, I refuse to do so because my mind cannot compute lies, okay? But the point being, like, that's the kind, not the like false humility, you know what I'm talking about? Not the like, I'm going to serve you so hard, I'm going to judge you for not serving like I do. That is not serving, y'all. You know what I mean? We all do it because we're human. But you know what I'm talking about? Like real, true, selfless, giving humility. Like truly putting someone above you. You know my word for, who remembers your word for the year? We are halfway through. It is June. That's right, girl. What is yours? It's love, right? That's right. Yours is love. Yours is, I don't know what yours is. What was yours? No, I'm not having you repeat yours. X. And what was yours again? Girl, you gotta remember. Okay, it is June. Christian, what was yours? Were you there that day? No, perhaps not. Okay. Everyone who was there, you have your word for the year. It is June. Y'all, do you know when the Lord tells me why I have the word that I do? It is usually sometime between June and October. Something happens during that time of my life. And I'm like, why is this happening to me? And God's like, remember your word. I'm like, oh, dang my word, you know? You know what my word is for the year? It's humility. And this week, I had a heavy dose of humility. I was like, I can do this so much better than this person can. And God was like, I'm like, oh, dang, humility. Like, truly, that's the way God's called me to. It's not about my kingdom. It's about his kingdom. Yeah, when you live for Jesus, that's what he models. He's not the one sitting there asking to be fed. He's not the one like, y'all get the bread for me. No. We live in an upside down kingdom. He's like, I will feed. I will multiply. You disciple, you up here who's like higher, because you're closer to me, you go feed them. Not just the Jewish people, the Gentiles, the ones that you don't like. That's who you're supposed to feed. That's how we're called to live. So let me ask you, are you being a follower? Are you being a follower of Jesus? We're all following something or someone. We all are. Let's make it count, okay? So are you following Jesus? And how are you serving those around you? Truly. Not like serving to like get it back at them, not serving for payback in the future, but truly of like, and maybe it's your family. That's the very best people to serve. My mom always told us, if you're good to everybody else but not good to your family, you are deceiving yourself, right? Because the hardest people to be good to are your family. If you're good to them, you can be good to anybody. How are you loving and serving those with less power around you? Last one. Jesus completely satisfies our needs. How many of you have like ever eaten like as much as you wanted, but you don't feel like, that like really heavy, full, kind of gross feeling? Not that feeling. It's kind of like you ate so much and 0 calories. You know what I mean? Like this is not going to impact me at all. This is like so good for me. I'm so full. I'm so happy. Like everything is perfect. Okay? That's the kind of life I want to live, y'all. Here we are in Mark 8 at the very end. They ate as much as they wanted. Literally. It's like an all-you-can-eat sushi buffet with no limit. And it's the best quality sushi, not the like sketchy warm sushi that Daniel ate the other day and got in trouble from, Like they ate as much as they wanted. And afterward, the disciples picked up 7 large baskets of leftover. There were 4,000 men, which meant there were probably more women and children. And Jesus sent them home after they had eaten. Guys, side note, I saw this meme. I had to share it, okay? It's really funny. You can go to the next slide. This is the best. I love this one. It's not there. Is it there? I think it's there, Nick. Is it there? Maybe. Okay. Oh, why is it showing up like this? It's weird. Okay. But here's the thing. This is the best. I was scrolling. It's true. Bread of life is Jesus, right? And it's saying, stop with this. Bread is not good for you, foolishness. Jesus did not say, I'm the bread of broccoli of life. Neither did he say, give us today our daily kale. Stop. Jesus is life. Jesus is the bread of life. Bread is life. Y'all do not quote that last part. Bread is not life. Jesus is life. He's also bread. Bread meaning like he's good. He satisfies our every need. But the point being, completely satisfied. Like who's ever eaten, so you're so completely satisfied, you can't eat anymore, but you're not like gross, like you feel good about it, Like most of us probably felt that way before. Like that is how completely satisfied. He wants us to be both spiritually and physically. He's not just here to like give you a taste of his goodness. He's here to satisfy you completely in his goodness. There's a really famous quote that I heard about in college that changed my life. And it's this. St. Augustine said that God has made us for himself and our heart is restless until it rests in you, which is so true. All of us, your hearts are restless, restlessly wandering, searching for something to satisfy you. Most of us are. All of us are, whether we admit it or not. We're searching to be known, to be seen, whatever it is. Maybe it's to numb hard feelings. Whatever it is, we're all searching for something. Our hearts are restless, but they will always be restless until they rest in God, in the one that we were made to be with forever. So let me ask you, what state is your heart in right now? Is your heart restless? Maybe your heart's like running so hard, you're trying to do all these things, but nothing satisfies. Your heart, what is it? Is it restless? Nothing in this world will satisfy you apart from Jesus. And so, today, I want us to do small group this way. Know the drill now, right? Pull out your phones. Do not check your notifications. No one important is talking to you right now. I know it, okay? All right, so, maybe there is, but it's okay. They can wait for 5 minutes. Pull out your phones. Can I have some background music? But let me ask you this. It's just 3 questions. Open up your notes, like whatever you write notes with on your phone. Do y'all use notes? Okay, text yourself then, okay? But basically, make a note or make something that only you can see, okay? Only 3 questions. Can you move to the questions, Ayang? It's somewhere in the back, I think. But here's the first one. Answer it really simply. Don't overthink it. Number 1, what do I think is my greatest need right now? So right now, in your life, okay? You don't have to share. I mean, you can if you want to, but you don't have to share. What is your greatest need in life right now? 1 or 2 answers. What is your greatest need? And is it a spiritual need or is it a physical need? Physical need being like anything apart from spiritual. What do I think is my greatest need? Is it a spiritual need or is it a physical need? And then question number 2, what state is my heart in right now? Is it restless or is it resting in God? And I didn't add this, but you can add why you think it's restless. What are you searching for? What have you been trying to make your restlessness rest in? Maybe it's people, maybe it's your future, maybe it's money, security. What state is your heart in right now? The last question is, how am I living as a follower of Jesus? Remember how following means to be like him. So how am I serving those around you? Maybe you're going to say, no, I'm not. And you can be honest. What's hard about that? What do you struggle with to serve others the way he calls us to? Maybe you're like, I just want to be the one that's known and seen. And that's real honest and that's great. But whatever it is, being honest. Am I living as a follower of Jesus? Am I serving others or am I asking to be served? If you're done, you don't have to share everything, but I want you to find one person next to you, okay? Find one person and you can kind of spread out a little bit if you want to, but just share briefly. Again, you don't have to share everything, but just share with them like, yeah, this really stood out to me today. Or I realized this is my greatest need. Whatever it is, I encourage you guys, find your person, look them deeply in the eyes, and then share whatever it is that you feel led to share together, okay? So I'll give you just like 5 minutes for that. It's not long. Just a few more minutes. So share. You're already kind of naturally in pairs, most of you already. So find your pair, find your person, and share with them what it is. Just a few minutes together. wrap up your thoughts together. Just a few more seconds. I'll have the praise team come up. I hope one day when you're going through your phone, because like none of you guys do, right? But when you go through your phone and you open up your notes, I hope maybe it's in like a couple years or something, and you're like, man, I've grown a lot since then. Or I realize like the same question is the same question always. The question of like, what is my greatest need? That's a question you're going to ask yourself for the rest of your life, because that's what it means to be human. That's what it means to be someone who needs Jesus, is to realize our needs. Every one of us as human beings, our desire is to be seen and known and loved for who we are, who God's called us to be, who God's made us to be. All of us are searching for freedom somewhere. All of us are searching for that compassion, for a life that is completely satisfied, and it can only be in Christ. Can we all stand together right now? We're going to pray in response to what we've heard today.